Ready? All right, let's do it. Welcome back to the Chaos with Care podcast. We are here today joined by my dear brother, Trent. This is the guy that got us the cameo from our last episode. He's also the guy responsible for this dagger being in my house from the Middle East. Major shout out to him for bringing that home. And what to say about Trent? He's a 12-year-old Air Force veteran, a traveler of continents, a loving husband, a seasoned leader of men. And I was trying to think of more majestic things to say about you, but I think that's a good place to start. He spent a lot of time in the Air Force, and he's got a lot of stories, a lot of things he could talk about. And so that's why we brought him on. He's visiting for the weekend real quick. I thought I'd just bug him and get him over here while we could. So, welcome, Trent. Say hello. Your mic's not working. Stop!
I see what you're saying. Okay. Thanks for having me. Long-time listener, first-time visitor.
Yeehaw. Yeah. I know you've been listening on the podcast, and yeah, we like to have guests, apparently. It's something we're still working on, but you seemed like the perfect candidate to be one of our guests. All we're asking about today is aliens and classified shit that we want to pick your brain on. I need you to spill government secrets within the first 10 minutes so people will listen to the whole episode.
Okay. I can do that.
What's the first thing you can tell me that nobody knows about? I'm kidding, Trent. We're not going to do that. I did write down some interview questions that I thought would be pretty fun. And like I said, this is his first time in front of a microphone or a podcast, so it might be a little jarring at first, but I think you're going to ease right into it once you get kind of comfortable with me and MG here.
I believe in you.
Yeah, that's my job as a host, to make you feel comfortable and chill and get some good stories out of you. So the first question I have, I was going to kick it off with this one. It's a question that I already know the answer to, but nobody else probably would. And so it seemed like a good place to start here with, well, Trent, what made you want to join the Air Force at such a young age, and what did your family think?
Well, as I'm sure a lot of people can kind of understand, I was in my early 20s. I did not know what the hell I was doing. I wanted something different. I wanted to travel. I wanted to contribute. I also, just as corny as it is, I consider myself to be a patriotic dude. I wanted to serve, but also selfishly, I wanted to get married. I was dating my now wife, Sarah, at the time.
Yep.
And wanted to be able to provide for her and just do something kind of grown up. And so, lacking any kind of direction, that's about a story as old as time. I joined the military.
That is a story about as old as time.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people go through that where, at least at that time, I graduated high school in 2010. Going to college just seemed like something that you did, that natural progression. And so, you know, really out of just by default, you're supposed to go to college. That's why I went. It just wasn't really anything that I was passionate about. And I bounced around a little bit in what I wanted to pursue, but just nothing really stood out to me. And then I was at an age where I think I had this idea in my head where I declared a major, I started going to school for something, and then I was locked in for life. It took me a long time to understand. Obviously, that's not reality. But at that age, it really seemed like you were making the decision that would determine your career for the rest of your life.
Yeah. I remember mom and dad pushing that on me too. Dad freaked out on me when I told him I was taking a year off after high school before going to college. And I didn't even want to go to college either, but it was expected.
Yeah. I can definitely feel that. I feel like as a parent, you know, that's just like, I guess maybe the barometer of your success is, oh, well, my kids went to school. So not only have I kept them alive, they're going to school because I've been told that's, what they need to do and what I need to do as a parent. So, well, I wanted to experience new things, new places, meet new people. Being from a small town, I think a lot of times it's easy to really get comfortable, to really dig in and put those roots down. And I'm incredibly grateful for the roots that I do have. But at the same time, I was really looking to just kind of understand what else was out there. And I think that's just knowledge you can't get without experiencing it firsthand.
Very well said. Yes, indeed. And I think it takes a certain breed of person to have that mentality. Like, I'm gonna sign up, make a career out of it, and it's gonna be awesome. And I want to adventure and stuff. Because don't get me wrong, I love to adventure, but
Mhm.
I never wanted to join, even though you asked me to do the buddy program with you.
Did I really?
Oh yeah,
I don't remember that.
multiple times you said if you join,
Oh.
we can do a buddy program together, and we'll be in all the same places.
You would have been awesome. I mean, you'd be awesome in anything you do, but you would have
Thanks,
been
buddy.
awesome. I stand on that. I
Yeah.
do. Although, I think what you've accomplished in the last 12 years yourself has been really awesome to watch.
Nice. Nux
Snail.
on that. Oh.
Got him.
Well, great answer to the first question there.
Yes.
Moving on. My next question for you. Who was your BFF that you ever made in the Air Force? And what made them so special to you? What kind of shit, this is a 3-part question, I'm sorry. What kind of shit did you guys get into that you can talk about?
Oh, man. See, I'm stupid. So what was the first part again?
No, that's fine. I'll reread the whole question. We'll start that.
You're good. I'm just messing with you.
Oh.
No, you're good. You're good. So my BFF, I'm going to give a disappointing answer to that. I can't think of any one person that was my BFF. I guess I accomplished exactly what I set out to do, to meet new people, and I was incredibly fortunate with that. It would be impossible for me to just like think of one single person because I was stationed in 3 or 4 different places. I deployed like 3 times overseas, and each of those stations were with different people. And I feel like I don't think that I have a single best friend. I had friends that most of them were much smarter than me. I tried to surround myself with people that I could learn from. Some of them helped me to be like a better human being. Some helped me understand a little bit more about the job that I was doing at the time. And then really the beautiful thing about the military, I truly believe, is that you're stuck with these people. I mean, for better or worse, like it is what it is. The proximity that you're in with these people is just not something that I've experienced really anywhere else. Sleeping in the same room, eating at the same time, doing the same job, just, brought closer together. And of course, where they say proximity breeds contempt. I mean, sure, that's fair, but eventually you move past that, and you just get to be really close with these people, just in whatever portion or whatever that looks like.
So I got something for you.
Yeah.
Because of this proximity, this closeness, you must be a ninja at masturbating.
Oh, you would not even. You don't even know, dude. My first deployment, I shared a room with three guys. There were 4 of us in this room. And something that I think, I mean, in all seriousness, it's something that you got to do. It's not just that; it's also like finding a little bit of time for yourself to call your family back home, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But if you walk into like a tent or a dorm room and there are military people there, if it allows, I'd say literally the first thing that's going to happen is that people are going to put up sheets. They're going to divide up the room so they can just jorking their shit. I mean, literally, that's like step 2, other than like drop your bags and clean. So I guess step 3, you got to put those sheets up. You got to find whatever privacy you can. I'm dead serious.
No, I 100% believe it. You said you're essentially stuck with these people for an amount of time.
Yeah.
So give me a time frame. I'm sure you had different instances and different time frames, but just give me an idea of how long you were stuck with people.
Well, I mean, I guess depending on how much we talk here, the answer is always going to be it depends.
I know.
I deployed 3 times, the first for 5 months and then the next 2 for 6, just 6 and change. So that's a very temporary thing. And when you're overseas, when there's danger, when you're just in that tight of proximity, you bond really fast. I mean, truly, I would meet, people for the very first time inside, a combat zone or whatever. And you don't know these people. You don't know anything about them. But within a week, I mean, you couldn't imagine your life without them.
I've only seen, the depictions on TV and whatnot, and then just my own imagination. It's like that's got to form one hell of a camaraderie.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Like embracing
absolutely.
the suck together, embracing the challenge, overcoming the challenge. I mean, even at my job, at my work, it's like when you come together and fix a problem, there's a bond there. You
Oh
know.
yeah. Well, I mean, shit, you and MG work at the same place, and then here you are, like moving that into your personal lives. Um, maybe spooning occasionally. I don't know, but it kind of grows from there.
Very well said. Great answer. I really appreciate that. And
Yeah.
MG, feel free to add anything if you'd like.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah. You know me.
That was just such a good answer. MG doesn't even got anything for you.
I've
and that's
rendered
okay.
MG speechless. What's the date? It is the 20th of June. It is 2:12 Central.
No, I'm not
Write it
speechless.
down.
I'm not speechless. I'm just saying I only wanted to know about your masturbation habits. That's it. That's the only thing I'm curious. So.
Well, we were talking about this for 2 hours before we started taping. What are you talking about? How much more can I tell you?
People must know.
Oh, that's funny. That is funny. Okay. Let's move on to the next question.
Yeah.
Walk me through your first deployment. What was the reality versus what you were expecting?
Wow, look at you, fucking professional. So my first deployment, no, seriously, that's a great question. My first deployment was in 2017. I was but a young lad. I think I was, 23, 24 years old. I was just like desperate to go overseas. And so, Sarah, my wife, was incredibly supportive of that. We didn't really know what we were getting into, but we both knew it was going to be a good thing. And honestly, we were so fucking hard up that we were desperate to make extra money. And so when you deploy to a combat zone or just certain areas, you don't have to pay any taxes on the money they give you. And then sometimes you can make extra allotments on top of that. And so honestly, we really needed the money. And then I also I joined to go over and serve. At the time I was fixing airplanes. And, you fix these airplanes every day so the pilots can fly them and get really good at their jobs. But that's all just like a practice run. It's not until you deploy, typically, at least in the unit that I was in, where you're actually, using those skills for the betterment of those who need you and for the taxpayers as well. So I was really excited to go. I left in, I want to say, May of 2017. It was really cool because I was working at a plane called a C-130 at the time. It's a large cargo plane. And it was big enough that for some of us that were lucky enough to get a spot on the plane, I was able to fly on that plane. So usually how the military works is not everybody has that ability. A lot of times they catch like not a commercial flight, but a military flight designed to be like a bus to take people to and from these areas. Mm-hmm. And so I was lucky enough where I got to fly on the plane that I actually worked on. So, man, I had snacks, I had
cool.
room. Oh, it's fantastic. But we first landed in Ireland and we had an awesome time there. Or, I'm sorry, no, first we landed in Canada. We had a night there to refuel and chill. Then we went to Ireland. We had a couple nights there. That was awesome. That's when I had a kebab for the first time. That shit's fucking awesome. And then from there, Naples. And then after Naples, we landed in the country that we were supporting in East Africa. And it was a really cool experience. I was not anticipating anything like that on the way to a deployment. Honestly, it almost kind of made me feel bad because it felt like it was a vacation on my way to a deployment that inarguably was not that difficult. Talking about expectations, we had a fucking subway on the base I was in. But at the same time, you're making combat pay. The base was super chill. It was very built up. What my job was to fix the planes so the planes could go up and refuel and provide imagery for helicopters that were circling around where there were, firefights, where there were gunfights. The idea was that these helicopters would go down. They would pick up somebody that had been shot based upon imagery that we gave them while flying over. And then they would pick those people up. They'd fly them out of the firefight. They'd land somewhere. We would pick them up in our plane. They'd be transferred over. We had a full surgery team waiting. And then they could perform surgery as we flew them back to the hospital. So all of these cool things are happening, but then for me, my life doesn't change all that much. It felt a lot of times like I was still back home. Of course, I was away from my family. Of course, things were weird, but we were in a safe place we were just doing a really cool job and we were finally operational. I expected after, growing up on, Black Hawk Down and all kinds of movies like that, that it was going to be a little more intense. And that wasn't my experience. I don't want to say I was hoping for it, but I guess I just kind of saw it as like a badge of honor that like the shittier it is, the better, because I could, really be proud of that, if that makes sense.
You're proving to yourself that you're capable of handling some hard shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I remember correctly, you had only been to Mexico before all of that, right? Before any of that happened. That was the only time you left the country. Is that right?
I'm trying to think. I think that's right, Quinn. Yeah, I think that's right.
Because I know you went down for a missions trip back in high school. So
Yeah.
that must have been, a hell of an adventure, dude.
Yeah. It took me a couple of years to kind of prove myself, and that I want to do this job to the point where, it's going to be really difficult if I completely shit the bed to get somebody else to come here and replace me. So I was with two other folks that were doing like my specialized job. And so the three of us, we all had to work together to figure it out. And man, if we didn't do well, there's really no backup.
Okay, so when you got to your deployed location, were you like terrified by the time you finally got there? Honestly?
No. I thought it was really cool. And as I was talking about before a little bit, those bonds that you're making with people, they really just kind of kick in. And honestly, I think just from a social perspective, everybody else is chilling. So, you kind of have to be having that same vibe. Now, I will say, though, that wasn't the case for everyone. We had one guy that was with us. I don't even remember his name, but he did not want to be there. We landed. We were working for maybe a couple days or something. Pretty much right off the rip, this person was trying to explore the idea of being able to go home, which, again, from a combat zone,
That's a big no-no.
Right, absolutely. It's a big no-no. There needs to be a really compelling reason. And so I think that's what drives the next part of this, which is, after he was told in no uncertain terms, look, you can't go. There's nobody else to do this job that you're here to do. We can't get somebody else here easily. You can't just, raise your hand and say, what, just kidding. I want to go home. Well, that was not a good enough answer for this individual. And so they tried a couple different, I hesitate to say the word schemes, but there were a couple different things they tried that escaped me. But their last one, the most effective one, they claimed they were sexually assaulted by one of the locals that was working in the area. And I mean, again, as well, I'm sure we'll get into later, I investigated things like that for years. I think it's wildly important to, run down anything like that. I cannot stress that enough. But, it was really difficult to understand like where this was coming from. So this person said that I'll just let you guys be the judge, how legit this is. So the story goes, this guy that wanted to go home, he really wanted to go, and he opened a sexual assault case against a Pacific Islander. I don't think I saw one the entire time we were there. It was mostly Africans and Americans who were working there almost exclusively. But the story was, this individual was in his dorm taking a shower. It's like a public shower. And without a word, without preamble, there's no additional context I can give you guys. A large Pacific Islander, a male, walked into this guy's shower, looked him dead in the eyes, cupped his balls, and gave him a couple little squeezes, like gentle squeezes. Again, did not say any words, and after the cupping, left and was just never to be seen again. And so
I don't buy it.
Look, again, I'm gonna leave this to you all and to you guys as well. Again, I cannot stress the importance of completely exhausting all opportunity to run this stuff down.
Yeah, taking it seriously.
Absolutely needs to be taken seriously, and it was taken seriously. This person was sent home almost immediately. The investigative team did a fantastic job with the information that they had at the time, which is, hey, look, somebody reports something. We need to not joke around. We need to take this very seriously. And that is, whoever that was, shout out. They did an incredible job. They got this guy home. He went home. He was on a plane like a day or two later. He got home. I want to say I was walking in at the dining facility, where everyone eats, just a massive cafeteria, a couple of days after he left or whatever. And on like a white, like a Xerox piece of printer paper, typed up on there, it said, wanted, information related to male Pacific Islander with, and I will never forget this in my life, in quotation marks, noticeable man breasts. And you need to report this to the authorities if you have anything going on. If you see any noticeable man-breasted Pacific Islanders cupping balls, you need to report it. I will never forget that as long as I live.
I'm not buying it.
That was one of the greatest things I've ever experienced in my life. So, again, I hope that justice was served, whatever that looked like. But all that to say, I believe that I had a really positive experience. And a lot of that was due to the incredible people that I was with. There were some people, though, that that's not their vibe, or they're not clicking with those around them, and they just want to go home. It's really important to make sure that, when you're put into that kind of a situation, the people to your left, the people to your right, they can depend that, that you've got their back.
I mean, according to the movies and anything I've ever read, like, once you sign up for the job, that is your job.
Yeah.
And you will go to military jail if you don't complete your job. Right?
I think it would just depend on the circumstances. See, there's my second it depends. We should start a counter for that or something. It is technically possible under certain circumstances. There was another guy. There was a guy, a rotation before me. He was there, a couple months before I was, and he was supposed to go home. He had a flight. He'd been there for 4, 5, 6 months or whatever, and he missed his flight. And it's a military flight. He's been allotted this spot. He was given this spot over other people, and when he didn't show up because he overslept, that dude got in huge trouble, right? Because you're
taking up a spot.
You're taking up a spot, exactly. And so that stuff is taken very seriously, and as it should be, absolutely.
You got to have order in the military,
right?
I mean, obviously,
yeah.
Anyways, in the spirit of moving on, great answer, by the way.
Sorry, cut that down as much as you want.
No, I'm gonna interject here.
Oh,
okay,
boy,
so we're just not gonna believe this guy. We have to believe all fucking women, but we're not gonna believe this guy who's clearly
no.
And it's so specific too. That's what I like about it. And you know what? He's very lucky that it was a Pacific Islander, because they're also known for being gentle giants, right? It could have been so much worse. Could have been so much fucking worse.
It was 2 gentle squeezes.
Yeah.
I mean,
he just wanted to.
Nobody said it had to be a gentle squeeze.
Yeah.
So I think we should be thankful, for our circumstances. That there's a point to be made there. That's a good shout out.
Yeah. There's a live action version of Moana that's going to come out that should include this.
Oh
I think.
my goodness, dude.
So the next question I have, what is the hardest order you've had to follow, or the hardest decision you've had to make in your role?
It's difficult to say exactly, just with the sheer volume of decisions and orders that I was given over that amount of time. But something I was truly terrified about was, I don't know if you remember this. I came into the military slated to do explosive ordnance disposal, EOD. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. I was terrified.
Those EOD guys are legends. I mean, they do incredible work, and I thought it was for me. I was in physical shape to be able to do it, because the standards are really high, but it's also a job you have to be really smart to do. These people are wildly, terrifyingly smart and courageous, honestly.
Yeah. Well,
and so
you also got to be wired for that kind of pressure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are a million qualities that, the EOD guys, and then just, special operations in general that they have. And I was very young, and I really wanted to kind of get involved with that. And so, I joined, and that was going to be my job, explosive ordnance disposal. It was a really cool experience. After you get through basic training, like everybody else, you go to this other base in Texas, and then you're there for a few weeks for something that's called selection. So in selection, essentially, it's like a trial period. You have to prove yourself, and the EOD instructors there have to kind of weed out, who realistically is going to be able to do this entire year of instruction and who's just not worth our time. That's a very simple way to say it, but that's essentially what it is. I went through selection. Honestly, I did pretty well. Every day we would show up, early in the morning, and we'd work out, just get the shit kicked out of us for, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 hours, something like that. All kinds of different stuff. And then we would go in, we'd shower, and then we would take tests. And so you would be given a presentation, taught things, and then you would be tested on it. I mean, instantly. If you fail any of the physical training stuff, you're done. If you fail any of the tests, you're done. If they were able to support it, they could kick you back a few weeks. You could try again, but really it was, it was a very high bar and not a lot of room for error. All that to say, that was a job that I went in to do. I felt passionately that's something that I could do well. I was also just so excited to not be home anymore and to be, moving forward in my career, to be like taking that first step to an adult job and the rest of my adult life. But at a certain point, after talking with all of the instructors there and just kind of understanding, what the reality of that job looked like, it just did not seem like a fit. Every single person I talked to, they were all divorced, at least once or twice, because what they're asked to do is just almost insurmountable at times. Their typical deployments were a year, at least, sometimes more. And so it really put a strain on families. I wanted to get married like as soon as possible. I was still dating my now wife at the time. I wanted to get married, but after that selection was over, you went and did a whole year of technical training. And so I wouldn't really be able to see her often anyway. I mean, the training curriculum there was just too insane. And so really, again, this has been a lot of, backstory and context here. But I would say one of the most difficult things I ever did was I had to raise my hand and I had to say, look, I don't think this is for me. I didn't know if I was going to get sent home. Sometimes that does happen. I didn't know if I was going to be kicked out because, hey, I was brought on to do this job. If I'm not able to do this job, how could I be upset if they want to send me home instead? And so, it was really a leap. I was absolutely terrified, but I had to do at the end of the day what was right for my family, even if, it was discontinuing my service. But that's how I came to be an aircraft mechanic, was because that was what was available. They came to me with a list of jobs and they said, hey, here's a couple you can pick from. And that's what I picked. So not knowing if I was still going to have a future in that organization and still just being like, hey, I need to choose my family in this. That was hard. I can't think of really any other like difficult, like single decisions, because again, there are just hundreds, if not thousands of orders and decisions made. But I will say that, a large part of why I got out was just because it just wears you down at a certain point. And then I would also just say that there are also a million micro decisions or small decisions or small orders. It just gets old eventually, being told exactly what to do, when to do it, how to do it. And then inevitably having that contradicted by somebody else that comes along and tells you to do something else. And so, at a certain point, I that was a huge part of it, was I just decided, hey, I want to make my own way. I want to understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. I want to be trusted.
Yeah. Well, I'd assume you'd kind of want to call the shots a little, or at least be in the know of the shots being called, or have any sort of input rather than just being told, go here, do that, don't ask questions.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that.
That's just the kind of person that you are.
Yeah. I think when I was younger, it didn't bother me as much.
Sure.
Hey, tell me what to do. Like, what's up? Let's do it. But I guess as I got a little older.
Sign of growth.
There you go. Yeah. You get a little older and you do want to understand why. You want to understand why, how what you're doing is contributing just to everything else. So I think that is fair. Sometimes that does happen. It's not that it never happens when you're in the military, but a lot of times it's it's a saying I've heard everywhere, but it's shut up and color. I mean, that's just kind of like your life.
I've never heard that.
Oh, really?
No,
Oh,
but
okay.
I like that. That's something you would tell a kid.
Yeah.
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 I have heard be seen, not heard, aka shut the fuck up.
Hey, that's good advice just in general, I would say.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good answer there. The next question I have for you, where was a moment where you genuinely feared for your safety, and how did you overcome it? Take your time.
Okay. I would say there were quite a few. As I've said before, a big part of joining the military and then ultimately like my career progression was that I wanted to put myself in those uncomfortable situations and learn and do a good job. And so a lot of that looked like me deploying. So for my second deployment, I deployed to Camp Simba, Manda Bay. Shout out Kenya. So that's in East Kenya. Why we were there was because there are a lot of Al-Shabaab militants in Somalia.
I remember this era.
Right next door. Yeah. Yep. So I was there in 22, 23. I was at just this small base that, I mean, you can look that shit up. They were attacked in 2020. They stormed the encampment, which is actually within a larger Kenyan military installation. And Al-Shabaab, they came through the trees and they killed a couple of Americans. And so the idea that a ground attack was coming in was pretty much expected. I think it was literally, so I got off a plane. It's this tiny little base where I was. And I get off the plane, and a friend of mine just so happened to know this person from before. They told me literally in the first hour that I was there, like, hey, it's coming. It's coming. They're gonna come through. They're showing up. They know where we are. They know what's going on. They're researching what we're doing here and what this looks like, just like they did last time. So, spoiler alert, that did not happen while I was there. We didn't have a ground attack, thankfully. But we were very much on the radar of those people in the area. A specific example, I would say that was about 6 months straight of worrying about my safety. We had a compound on this installation, and you'd come out to like take a piss or whatever. Since we were just surrounded by jungle on all sides, the threat of ground attack was really always there. I mean, that's something that we were reporting on like literally daily. And I remember coming out to go to the bathroom a few times in the middle of the night, and we had mortar teams who would fire up like illumination rounds. I'd come out of the bathroom, be like, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning or whatever, and I'd see like an illumination round just being fired off, and it goes up and then it slowly falls down because the incredible people on the walls defending us while my fat ass slept thought maybe they saw a movement or something like that, and so they fire up the illumination rounds. And so every time I go to the bathroom, in the middle of the night, you just hear, and it would kind of come down, and you're like waiting for that alarm to go off.
Oh my
ground
God.
attack, ground attack, ground attack. Again,
Yeah.
never happened. I was there 6 months, literally from day one. I was told this is happening, this is happening. And then my role was, finding intelligence on everything that was going on, everyone that was in the area, everyone that wanted to do us harm, and then to go outside the base and learn more about that. That's what I did for 6 months. And so there was nobody else allowed off the installation because of how dangerous it was. There were just a handful of us that could go out, and I was one of those people.
What were you going out for? Intel?
Yeah. The short answer is intelligence, and in practice, that looked like a lot of different things. We would go out. We would meet with different villagers or local leaders. A lot of times we met with terrorists who didn't know that I knew that they were a terrorist. So, it was kind of funny. We're sitting here, playing this game. I've got a gun concealed on my hip, and I have another one folded up in my backpack.
Oh, this is juicy.
Yeah. Yeah. So there were plenty of meetings where, I'd meet with local leaders, people that had just witnessed stuff, people that were aware of where Al-Shabaab was hiding, what they were trying to do. And some were terrorists themselves. And I think the interesting thing was that they didn't know that I knew they were terrorists. They don't have any concept of what it is, what resources we had available to us. To them, they're meeting with this American. They want to hear about, their friends or what's going on. And they think they're in the clear. They're like, oh, well, if this American is talking to me about this, I must not be a suspect myself. They don't know. They don't know. Well, of course, the entire time, I'm thinking to myself, hey, I've got people with me to ensure my safety, but I'm going to find out what's going on. And so, heading outside of the base, there were not really many others that could do that, as I mentioned before. But there was also an ever-present danger there. It was right before I left, so this would have been, late 2022. Some Al-Shabaab militants came down from Somalia. They were planting IEDs, improvised explosive devices, along roadways, blowing up. They'd also attacked some Kenyan checkpoints, taken their uniforms, and then made their own fake checkpoints. And then when you stop at that checkpoint, they'd just gun you down. So that was happening a lot toward the end of my time there. We were, I couldn't even remember how many times exactly, we'd be in like an armored SUV or in a Humvee or something. And I'd kind of like look over at my buddy and I'd be like, if we hit an IED right now, like depending on what that looks like, you think it's just like snap your fingers, like we would even know, do you think we'd even be aware of what was happening? Or is it like those memes when, somebody's just doing something and then like the angelic music starts and like the blue sky with the clouds behind them, and that was something that we talked about all the time. That's just, something that we got used to.
And I'm sure dark humor played a large part in carrying you through your times, if I know you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And not all of it was dark humor. Actually, this just popped into my head. There's one guy that I was in Kenya with, and one of the coolest human beings I've ever met. He drew like dioramas, like Thanksgiving or Christmas, like the family around like the fire and the kids in the stockings. But everything, guys, was made of cocks. It was dicks. Everything was dicks. And so it would be like a dick mom serving dick cookies to her dick husband inside of a dick house with dick stockings,
dick
on
Christmas tree.
Yes.
That is hilarious.
And I don't know of another place where you could get away with that shit. I mean, to this day, I have pictures of this. It's something I look back very fondly.
Oh yeah, it's the little things.
Was it titled Quinn's Christmas Miracle? Is that what it was titled?
There were no dicks in Quinn's Christmas Miracle. He fucking ate them all.
Can't have a podcast episode without a few gay jokes thrown my way.
Hey man,
I'll take it, man.
If the plug fits.
You're used to taking it. I do have a serious question about the intelligence gathering. So so the Air Force is gathering intelligence. You're gathering intelligence from other people.
Yeah.
Are there other agencies also gathering intelligence and sharing? And how does that work? Like I imagine sometimes it would get messy as far as because there's maybe multiple entities trying to gather intelligence and who's sharing what with what now and whatnot.
That is honestly an incredibly astute question. Literally everything you just said, every syllable, that is absolutely a thing. So it depends on where you are. But yeah, absolutely. Typically, you're not the only person playing. The way to get past that is by coordinating. For instance, we were there doing our job and we were able to go outside the base. We were able to understand like the security of the area, like specifically around us. We had partners that would go into Somalia and do similar things out there, but they couldn't go in our backyard like we could. We wouldn't go to Somalia and into their turf, and then they wouldn't go outside the base in ours. At the same time, military forces are not the only ones with interest in that area. So a huge part of what I did was coordinate with the embassy, because the embassy in that country, they're going to be the ones that are running the show and helping to coordinate those efforts. Because exactly as you said, why would you be running somebody that I too am running? That wouldn't make sense if you have a source and then separately I have that source. There are a lot of different ways to get past that. The coordination that I mentioned would really be the first. There are also there are a myriad of tracking systems that identify people of interest, people that have been sources. So there's also several different ways you can look up and say. So, for instance, if I said, I want to source MG. I want to know about, you got a St. Augustine on your hat. So let's say I want to know about St. Augustine. I'm super interested in that, and I believe that MG can tell me more about it. So what I would do is I would have some exploratory conversations with MG. I would try to ascertain what it is that he knows, if he's legitimately close to it, if he is who he says he is, and then if there's any danger to me. When I've done that, I'll slowly or quickly, just depending on the relationship, put all of your biographical information into a database. That database is available to anybody in the intelligence community, the IC. So I will caveat, Americans are not in that. Any database that I know of, there are no Americans in that database. This would be if I go into a foreign country, I want to work with somebody, and I need to document that rigorously. I want to make sure that this person hasn't before worked with other intelligence entities, because if they had, that's context I need to know. I also need to know, hey, is this a bad guy? I need to know that too. I would much rather find that out off the rip than, I get compromised in some way.
Excellent answer. This has been a great podcast so far. Before I ask the next question, MG, do you have any ad sponsors today?
Oh, okay.
Gotta do it.
Can I do it? Can I do it? Can I do it? Can I do it? Yeah. I don't want to steal it from you. This would be fun. I do it. No, I'll do it from both. Let's go.
2 mics.
2 mics. Oh my goodness!
I'm
about to give this back. This is the best thing I've ever seen. This episode of Chaos with Care is brought to you by Dick Holster's Orphan Traps. Look, imagine this. You're a proud homeowner. You take care of what's yours. And every once in a while, you get a pesky group of orphan children scurrying and squatting inside your walls.
What did you write?
But you're prepared because you have multiple Dick Holster's Orphan Traps locked, cocked, and ready to trap some orphans. Did you guys know that Oh my goodness. Did you guys know that orphan damage...
Can't even get through it.
Go ahead. There was a lot of research into this.
I mean, I can see there's a works cited page. Did you know that orphan damage accounts for 16% of all property damage to single-family homeowners? So don't let those little parentless demons run amok in your house. With each purchase of a Dick Holster orphan trap, you'll receive a 1-year supply of orphan bait, a tub of gummy bears, and 10 stock photos of happy couples who could potentially be their parents. Each trap has been rated 100% effective and humane by the Dick Holster Organization of Ethical Orphan Trapping. That's Dick Holster's Orphan Traps.
Beautiful. Thank you, Trent.
No, you do it. You do it. I feel so bad stealing it for you. I love the show. It's a great show.
No, that's fantastic.
That is an excellent ad.
That is a great ad. I'm hoping to become a homeowner myself soon. So what the fuck was I thinking?
Good luck in Seattle, bud.
Yeah, oh, dude.
I've got family and friends that come from there.
It's crazy, but I feel much more prepared now that I know about Dick Holster's Orphan Traps.
Yeah. They'll keep you safe. Shouts out to Dick Holster Orphan Traps.
Again,
Thank you.
I feel so bad. I was not trying to steal. I was just
no.
and it's your thing. I know it's your thing.
No. No, that was beautiful.
That's our first celebrity.
That was great.
Reading of an ad sponsor. I haven't even done that yet.
Oh wow.
So
look, I'm sure you guys are gonna go in, record MG doing it actually well, and then I'll be like the kid who's given the second controller while it's turned off while the older brother's the one actually doing it. Or the girlfriend that rubs herself out after having sex with her boyfriend. It could go either way. I don't know.
Yeah. Good metaphor.
No, that's good.
Okay. All right. Thank you for reading that for us, Trent.
Yeah.
Hopefully we pull some money off that. Okay. Anyways, next question I've got for you. What is the most culture shock you've ever seen? And it can be good or bad.
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. I'm gonna get intimate on this one.
Please.
The level of poverty that other countries just live with, like what their norm is versus ours, I cannot stress this enough. The more people bitch about how things are going in this country and what they have access to in this country, the more that somebody complains about that, the less that I personally feel that they've experienced of any fucking where else. I cannot stress that enough. When you go to some of these places, you see the conditions that they're living in. Even with me coming in as a member of the military, trying to collect intelligence, I'm a tourist, right? I get to go back. Yeah, I mean, I'm living in a tent, but at least I have a cot or a bed. At least I'm able to have access to meals and water. That is not universal, not even a little bit. When you see what these families, what these mothers and fathers do for their children to give them a fucking handful of rice, it is unfathomable to people that haven't experienced it, to people that haven't seen it. And I think that it's important to recognize that this is a relatively low population, the Western world.
Agreed.
It is. And it's so easy to take for granted. And until you can see what other people are dealing with, in those places and just understand how good you have it.
I kind of want to answer this question.
Yeah, please.
Just to give you something to think about.
Yeah.
Because, okay, when you and I and your wife, Sarah,
Yeah.
when we were in Egypt,
Yep.
specifically in Cairo, Egypt is definitely third world as fuck, and you saw a lot of poverty. I mean, you'd have mothers.
Please don't say that. Don't say that.
No.
Don't make Egypt mad.
Oh, we'll make Egypt mad. But you had mothers with their 3-year-old kids, and they'd send the kids out to go hound me and you for money. It's like, you got a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
They're playing at your emotions to try to get money. And shame, it's a shame. And I did end up giving some of them money. Yeah. And another example in Egypt was seeing through the bazaar, which is just a massive market full of people peddling their products and selling what they can and trying to make money. There was a group of about 8 grown men that were all carrying on their shoulders a block of ice. I don't know if you remember that or if you saw that while we were there.
Yep.
And I was just like, what the fuck? Why are there, 8 grown men carrying around a block of ice on their shoulders, like a humongous block of ice? And the answer was, the water in Cairo is so shitty that they can't drink it. So the only use that they can make of it is to make ice out of it, which is used to cool bottles of water or soda and cans of water and soda. That's literally all they can do with their water. I mean, just use it to freeze it to cool sealed beverages that are coming from outside sources. I thought that was insane. I couldn't believe it that you had 8 dudes walking around with a block of ice to make a living. I just, very hard to wrap your head around. And I just wanted to throw that out there. That's all. Because I saw that too. And
yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree more. In some countries, you go there, and I don't know if you've ever thought about your water consumption in a day, how much you drink, how much you wash your hands, how much you take a shower with, what that would end up being. But there are like westernized countries out there where they get 1.5 liters to 2 liters on average for an entire day. I drink more than that in a couple hours. The idea that a shower would be a luxury, that water would be a luxury, is something that I don't think really gets enough respect. I don't know how else to put that.
I know
there have been multiple countries that I've been to where I'm a tourist, right? I go there, I can help them out a little bit. I share with them what I can, but there's nothing that I can do about that long term. At one point, I was visiting a school in Kenya. I was talking with some of the teachers there, And they told me that, all the kids, they looked happy and everything. It looked like a normal school, at least for that area. And it turns out a lot of these kids had lost family members to a recent attack. And they were talking to me about how Al-Shabaab came out of the bush, or how Al-Shabaab came out of the jungle. They did just unimaginable things to the families, to the parents, and then they took the kids with them into the jungle. And are you ever going to see those kids again? Is that community going to be able to take those kids again? Who knows? Understanding that it is a relatively low population that has access to the food and water and security and luxury that we have here today.
I think as a greater whole, when you look at the big picture, even like and I hesitate to say this, but I feel like even the poorest of Americans have still got it pretty good compared to some other countries.
Yeah, I guess it depends on circumstances, and something that I've spent a lot of time thinking about recently is how, the starting lines are so different. They are so different for different people, right? Within this country, and really anywhere, as high as, you can reach at your generation. You want your kid to come above you and have, be able to stand on your shoulders and just, keep progressing and doing better for themselves. But I would agree with that in a lot of cases, that is true. There were a lot of people that I talked with in many places I've been where, for instance, the dad would go out and he would walk miles and miles through this jungle. I mean, just so thick you can't even see the sky. Walk for miles, no water, no food. Go and collect wood or burn wood to make charcoal and then carry all that back with him again, miles and miles, just to be able to afford the bare minimum. And what they're making per day is roughly a dollar for, all of that for 12 to 16 hours of just absolutely backbreaking work.
Dude.
No access to medicine, no water, no mandated breaks, no OSHA, no anything.
Yeah.
It's just a complete,
it sounds like a terrible quality of life.
Yeah, I mean, you take what you can get, and you become resilient and you adapt. And at the end of the day,
of course,
being a dad now, you do what you gotta do. But it's so easy to take for granted that, just about anywhere you go, you can turn on the tap and you can have a glass of water. Might not be great water, might not be clean. It's certainly not perfect, the whole system, and it's certainly not perfect here. But just the ability that you will not die of thirst in the jungle while your children watch. The ability to not have that is something that I think it's not even thought about. It's not even considered. So, yeah, I mean, again, just to answer your question, to go back to that, I don't think that water and resources are given enough consideration because it's not important to us. It is important to everyone else.
It's expected for us that we will have access to that. Yeah, no, I definitely agree.
And we've worked hard to make it so, right?
We have.
But not any harder necessarily than others who have a worse life. So that was a little of a bummer to consider as in terms of reality check or culture shock. But something that I did like, I was stationed in Italy for several years. Mm-hmm. They often have wine at lunch. And so when I would go out and meet contacts, local partners, stuff like that, you get your food and then inevitably a glass of wine was coming as well. A lot of times it was like a free house wine. Like it would be just free. They would bring you not water or anything else. They would bring you like a glass of wine. Just it wasn't even anything you had to ask for.
Yeah.
That was good. I didn't even like wine before I got there.
I never paid for wine when I visited you in Italy, but I got plenty of wine for free. You are correct.
You go to Texas Roadhouse.
You get the buns.
You get the buns. You get water. You get tea. Hey man, you go to Italy. You play your cards right. You get a free glass of wine. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And it's good too. It's better than what an equivalent would be here.
Yeah, much better. Well, our shit comes, I don't know, prepackaged. It seemed like a lot of their shit was pretty local made wine.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good answer. Good answer. Okay. On to the next question here.
Yeah.
Okay. For anyone that is watching, we just had a potty break real quick, and Trent wanted to show this picture that I had hanging up in the bathroom of us.
Yes, absolutely. Do you remember this?
Do I remember that? No, I don't. I have selective memory, and I hate you,
That's
so
fair.
I selected
MGC.
to remove that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty
It's
cool
good- it's
picture.
good stuff. It's
Yeah.
good stuff.
I'm glad you like it.
I like it a lot.
I liked it so much, I framed it and put it in my bathroom.
Yeah.
Those pyramids aren't real, by the way. I
Look,
just wanted to know that.
Hey, and the Sphinx is
we were
really
there.
and the
They're
Sphinx
real.
is really a dog. It's not a human head. There's a dog head that they carved the human head from. Have you heard that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was.
It
Who,
makes
who am I
perfect
talking
sense.
to over here? Of course, you've heard that.
The next question that I have for you: how hard is it to make a home somewhere when you know you're gonna leave?
On the one hand, you know when you're leaving, and so if it sucks, you can assure yourself, hey, I don't have to be here for a super long time. But
Makes perfect sense.
right, yeah, but I've been, in total maybe 6 different places for 6 months to 4 years, depending, and it's also in a way it's difficult of knowing when you're going to be leaving down to literally the day. I knew when I was going to leave several of the places I was at before I even got there. I would say there's definitely a challenge there to really invest in your community, to surround yourself with others, because at the beginning, I would say I was a lot more interested in like assimilating with those around me. I'll self-identify here. For the last, couple of years, though, eventually it just gets to wear on you, and now it's kind of to the point where I don't, I have my own family, and I know I'm going to be leaving somewhere in a couple of years. You're just so caught up in the day-to-day bullshit that it's really difficult to, dive in like that.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting a little more jaded as the time goes by. Maybe.
That's not the word I would use, but I don't think you're wrong.
Okay.
I don't think you're wrong.
That's fair. I think that's how I would feel.
That's fair.
Okay. Next question. What were you not prepared for when you finally got out of the Air Force?
I will say this is the first time in my adult life that I feel like I'm being treated like an adult at work. There is a lot of structure when you're in the military typically, and sometimes that's a good thing. It was, as I mentioned, when I was younger, I was a little more okay with like that level of micromanagement. But as time went on, it just stopped being something that I really enjoyed. And so now that I am outside of the military, able to, I'm very fortunate to have a job right now where I can kind of make my own schedule. It's been very difficult. I've been yelled at several times for, hey, I have an appointment. I'm going to be out this morning. I'm not missing any meetings. So, no issues. I have people being like, dude, why the hell are you even telling me this? I'm like, what do you mean? Why am I telling you this? Like, of course I have to tell you I'm going to be out for an hour or two. That's what I'm used to. So just honestly, the level of freedom to choose where you want to live, what job you want to do, it's weird. I was actually thinking just the other day, I've never done drugs in my entire life. I'm a fucking loser like that. Regret nothing. I just don't see the appeal.
Yeah.
But I was like sitting down on my couch, I think it was a day or two after I got out of the military, and it just kind of hit me, and I was like, holy shit, I could smoke weed right now. Like, whoa, like
Yeah.
I'm not going to go to jail if I do this. Like, it is legal where I am, and it's like, I could if I wanted to. I don't know why I would, but there's nothing stopping me from doing this.
Yeah,
So
the realization dawned on you.
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I think it's something that a lot of people deal with, it's on the one hand, it's a loss of community, and honestly a loss of self. But then on the other, it's like, wow, I have a lot more choices than I did before, for better or worse.
Yeah. Very well said.
Yeah.
Very well said. Great answer. Well, I've got one more question for you.
Yeah.
What kind of a dad do you think your years served made you? Did it change what you want for your kid?
So I had my first kid about 3 weeks before my third deployment. So my daughter was born. I got to spend a couple weeks bonding with her, and then I caught a flight to the Middle East.
Had to go.
Yeah. So that was really difficult to leave, a 3-week-old under those circumstances. That was really difficult. I guess I just try to take from that I'm just using the absolute most of the time that we have together, doing whatever it takes to make sure that she's provided for. So yeah, I would say about halfway through that deployment, I had to investigate a suicide on, it was the day after Thanksgiving. That would have been 2024. There was an individual that was stationed at the same place as me. He hung himself with like a cord. And I remember getting breakfast after FaceTiming my wife and daughter back home and getting the call that this individual had taken their life. A part of my job was to make sure that there was no foul play involved. I had to go in there with a team of people. We had to do a little investigation on what happened, and then also just to get that individual properly taken care of into the hospital for processing. I had to search that person's body and take their personal effects off of them. And in the process of doing that, I noticed that they were wearing an Apple Watch. And when I go to take the Apple Watch off of their wrist, it kind of activates due to my touch. And the background of that was the individual who, had just passed away with a daughter now much older than mine. And so that hit me really hard. I couldn't imagine what that person was going through to take that kind of a measure. But I think for me, it really just drove home just the incredible responsibility that you have as a parent to make sure that your kid is taken care of. And really with all those months spent apart, just to truly cherish the time that you do have together.
That is so fucking dark.
Yeah.
Holy cow. But
that was not a great day for anybody.
But you make a really compelling point there.
Yeah.
I don't know how you could look at that picture and not just feel responsible,
Yeah, it was rough.
and needing to be there. So I don't even know why I'm adding to this, because you kind of drove it home when you said, you have a huge responsibility. You are correct.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's a really sad story, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you had to go through that. I'm sure you
feel
went
sorry
through
for his family,
all
and his
sorts of
friends.
shit.
Yeah, there's stuff
I've
like that.
never heard of.
Yeah,
Did you keep the watch?
I had to turn that one.
God
in.
damn it.
Yeah, I know. I'm more. I have a Garmin watch already, so yeah.
Okay, well that is the end of our questions that I have written down to interview you with today.
Yeah.
And I would like to thank you for coming on to the podcast and sharing a bit of your story with us. That is pretty cool. Hopefully this gives some perspective to people that are not in the military. Also, I want to say that MG and I are taking a break after this episode. It'll be a 3-week break we're planning, and that is going to be because MG is going on vacation. We are switching to season 2 officially on Spotify because, I think we're about 14 or so episodes in at this point. So we are going to switch to season 2 when we come back. Also, it'll just give us some time to think about some good ideas for episodes and good topics. So if anyone has any ideas or requests for what they want to hear us talk about on the podcast, feel free to drop a comment, shoot us an email, whatever. And then we were also going to look into the John Kiriakou cases and see if those were anything we could cover, which I'm sure they are. So that is all coming in the next season, and we will be back in a few weeks. And you'll see us then. And that is a wrap on our podcast. Trent, thank you for coming on, brother.
Yeah,
Love this guy.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Oh yeah, it was great. I'm glad you were able to do this in the short time you were here. So we will see you all in 3 weeks. I bid you all adieu. And
Yeah. I